Yeah, we're going to talk about Revenge of the Nerds, and the reason I'm actually talking about this is because of just things how I observe them throughout time, throughout ages, and things that we come up to right now at this moment. How everything is operated and how everything runs on, right? So when we look at, for example, back in the day, I remember that we would actually have street fights, and they would literally be street fights that were settled between two men with hands. You know what I'm saying? And we would actually use our environment as weapons. So for example, if I wanted to beat somebody's ass, there was no rules. You know what I'm saying? I'll make a pebble a weapon. I'll fucking rip a stick out of the tree and use that as a weapon. It doesn't matter. Rip your fucking nose hairs. Anything that you could do to win the fight, right? So it's basically your environment. You notice how through time we start to use now. There's really no fair street fights. You have to use weapons that are man-made, like knives, guns, whatever it may be. That this is how we actually fight now. So you never know. When you get into a street fight, you never know who's going to whip out a weapon. And that's why it's as dangerous as it can be. Because you might be at a disadvantage. However, when you're in a street fight, you're both in the same environment. You know what I'm saying? So you use your environment to your advantage. And whoever's wiser or has the right, skill set to not only fight with their hands, but use their environment as weapons, then this is something that you can actually say this person is a skilled fighter. You get what I'm saying? Aside from being able to throw hands, because I'm going to get into the skilled fighter thing in a minute. But let's say, for example, street smarts would also be, is it smart to engage in the fight with that individual, or would it better to just be to walk away and just, live to fight another day? You know that this guy's going to whoop your ass. You know he's a much bigger dude. Just like in MMA, you don't put somebody who's much bigger against a smaller fighter, right? Because they're at an automatic disadvantages, regardless of all the rules and the referee and whatnot. So you have a guy who would be wise enough not to, or you would know that he's a dirty fighter, or his friends may jump in. You may not have the same army he has, like you may have, he may have more people backing him up than you. So, in the instance that you do whoop his ass, his friends jump in, your friends would be outnumbered and you would get your ass whooped. Whatever the case may be, you just have street smarts. All these things have to click in an instant. It's not like you have a chance to sit back and battle plan these things. They just happen in an instant. But these things happen by instincts. You get what I'm saying? And these are the things that we are not taught to actually use. We actually just use intellect and that's it. But we have to actually use our senses. You get what I'm saying? Like if I sense that there's danger, right? I can choose to fight or flight. But the whole thing is that in an instant, I would have to use my senses to know if it benefits me to engage in that. And for what benefit would I have to do that? Am I gaining something out of it? You get what I'm saying? Like you can go hunting. And if you go hunting for whatever it may be that you're hunting for, is because you're looking for something that's going to sustain you, like food-wise or whatnot. You get what I'm saying? There's people who do it for vengeful purposes. You may have done something to a family member of mine, so now I'm going to look for you to do something to you, and I'm doing it for the sake of a satisfaction. Or I got something, done because I got one up on you now. You get what I'm saying? So whatever the person did, you know what I'm saying? You hold on to that and you actually go look for that person. You do something to them and now you gain something from that, right? Supposedly. Now, when we look at all these scenarios of how things used to be, right? And we look at how we are doing things now, right? When we look at how, for example, certain people hunt other people for debating purposes and whatnot. You get what I'm saying? Words could be fighting words as well. Words could be used as forms of attack. With words, you can actually destroy somebody's character. You attack a character. Instead of physically fighting, you attack a character with words, right? But we're using a technology now that goes beyond knives and guns. We're using computers now, right? So we use the computers, but we're also defending ourselves via the screen of the internet, where we know that that person can't touch us, but we're attacking this person on a deeper level. Right? So we attack their character, which actually debilitates their spirit. You know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing though, when you're in a fight, right, you can get intimidated by the individual through trash talking. And this is why when you look at MMA on the build up to the fight, there's always going to be some trash talking. And this is because that's more of a mental, spiritual warfare type of thing, right? So you got the spirit attack, then you got spirit and mind, and then you got the body attack after. That's the day of the fight, is when you get into the fight with that person. But depending on how it went through the buildup of the fight, which was the mental warfare part, spiritual part, then it determines how strong or how sturdy you are to fight this person in physical form now, in the day of the fight day. Because here's the whole thing, is that everything's going to start from your stability. Your stability and foundation is a metaphysical form, right? It don't matter how much you've worked out, how in shape you are. You get what I'm saying? The spiritual and mental warfare could defeat you before you get into that fight. You get what I'm saying? So this is why you have to be wise enough, right? Like, let's say we go back to the street fighting days, wise enough to know what's going to benefit you and what's not. And then if you're an MMA fighter, the build up to the fight is going to consist of you being mentally strong enough and sharp enough to know that, again, but when the Bible says beast, a man know thyself, that's you knowing the beast. Why the beast? Man know thyself, not spirit know thyself, but man know thyself. But why in physical form, man know thyself, right? Because the body is basically your vessel that you're inhabiting in space, which I'm going to make another video on how this even works with the alien invasion and whatnot, okay? But you're getting to know your body, because once you know your body, right? The body is you inverted inside out. Like, you're having this experience through this body. But you got to understand that you're living through programs and conditions based on what you've lived through your environment, and what causes your belief to basically where you stand, what you believe about yourself and your environment outside of you. So if I'm sitting here and beast know thyself, right? Man know thyself. The beast is your experiences. Regardless of what it is that you're getting into, it's your experiences. Now, if I'm getting to know myself, I'm getting to know all the planets, solar systems, and I'm getting to pretty much know the universe. Why do they say you're a universe? Because when you're in your center, right, you are centered in yourself. That's when people say you're self-centered, self-conscious, self-aware. So I'm in my center. Yeah, I'm going to be stepping outside of my center at times to go explore what's in space. Just like if you go in outer space, you explore different planets. This is me inhabiting different planets, talking to different people. I may be inhabiting different planets, right? When the moment I'm doing mental warfare, I'm invading a planet. I'm invading that person's mind before I get into the physical fight with that person, right? So this is kind of like the end all, the infinity end game, right? The physical form. This is what you're experiencing, right? But it's still nothing at the same time. But based on what you've designed from the blueprint determines what you're going to actually have as an experience, right? So my mind has to be set. That's why they say I change my mind, or my mind is set on something. Okay. So if I'm in if I'm engaging with others, I'm engaging with other planets. I'm Galactus, right? I'm an eater of worlds. When we talk about the Martians are coming, Then we talked about back in the day how the Martians want to eat your brain. But this is where the modern day debates come in, because this is modern day warfare that's going on. And I'm going to get into what warfare really is and how this is even happening within you without you even realizing what's actually happening. Okay? But if you really look at it, again, all viruses start from the mind. So you can implant the mind virus into somebody and have them believe something about themselves or about their environment that would actually either encourage them or debilitate them. So you could be a beneficial virus or a benevolent virus. Let me make a disclaimer, just because I'm actually coming out of YouTube jail for your information. I'm not a medical doctor, so anytime I mention the word viruses or bacterias or whatnot, none of my information is backed up by medical science or scientific fact. So, do your own research. I'm just a movie director right now. As I'm talking to you, I'm also a content creator. I'm trying to entertain you right now. So take it for what it is. Okay. I don't know anything. So do your own research. Okay. Listen to me for entertainment purposes. I can't teach you something you already know anyway. So think about that. I want you to really think about that. I can't teach you something you already know. You already know all these things. Now, the whole thing is that I'm also getting to another video on how that is even so. How you know everything, but you're not aware of what you actually know. You know what I'm saying? But because you think you know so much, sometimes you block yourself off from knowing what you should know. So that's why they say for you to learn something, you have to unlearn other things. It's for that reason. Okay? So keep up with me on this. So this is modern day warfare. This is kind of like Revenge of the Nerds. This is why when we saw movies back in the day, we would say that, you know, Revenge of the nerds are going to actually be the ones that rule the world. And this is why. Because if you look at it, what are you as an individual? You know what I'm saying? You start to talk about, we listen to a religious connotation of what man is, man was created in the image of God. So you start to ask, well, what the hell is God then? But if you look at man and what man does, man creates technology and computers in the image of man, right? So that can kind of give you an idea of what man is. You are artificial intelligence. You are a fucking computer. That's why you can program your mind. This is why we can reprogram our mind, right? This is why you can wipe out your memory and implant some new shit into your mind with the right technology. But if you look at the military, when you look at, for example, stealth fighters and all these fighter jets, they're built on technology of what we actually observe in nature. So when you look at bats, for example, this is where the technology of the stealth fighter came from, is from bats. You got different type of fighter jets, different type of things that we have, right? That we actually soar, you know, the airs with, and it's coming from the technology of what we observe from birds and from these mammals. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at, for example, how we use computers, right? Computers, you know, we have Mother Earth, we have a motherboard, right? We have a screen, which is like, we have Googles, and you can look at that as goggles. How do you see the world? So, for example, if you have, you know, let's say Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a frequency, right? And this is actually what the computer decodes the information that you're trying to look up and puts it in digestible information for you to actually be able to know what it is that you're looking at, right? So this is why the computer is kind of like you're using Wi-Fi. The computer screen decodes the information for you to be able to read it, right? And then this is how you're experiencing the world of technology. So you're experiencing the world through Google, through goggles, right? You're using a motherboard. A lot of people, if you ground to soil, to Mother Earth, right? And we talk about we attract negative ions, we give off positive ions, right? There's a symbiotic chemistry happening here. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a sexual experience because you got positive and negative happening here. It's just like a woman. A woman is considered a feminine energy. That's negative energy, right? And then man is masculine. That's more of a push out energy. You can even observe this through, you know, the phallus and the vagina. The vagina receives the penis. No different than an outlet. When you have a plug and you plug in the outlet, you have an appliance working now, right? So this is how we're experiencing the world of technology right now. But when it comes to debates, for example, you have debates where it's no different than a sanctioned UFC fight. There has to be certain rules you have to follow. There has to be a certain skill set you have to utilize your words to be able to smash your opponent to some extent. So, for example, you notice how when you have debates, there's usually a moderator. No different than a UFC fight, you have a referee, right? You have rules and regulations by what you can do and can't do when you're actually in a debate, right? But then you have certain arguments, right? Like discussions that you can have with somebody which are not, they're not debates, but you can have discussions with people that may look like a debate, but it's more or less similar to what you see in a street fight. There are no rules. You're not using your words where you say you can't use this or you can't do that. You can't use this to back up your claim. You get what I'm saying? So you're just having discussions, and it's more or less you're using your senses and based on common sense, right? On how you see your world. You can get to know that individual a little bit more just based on just basically on having a discussion. Some people are very empty, right? So you may have discussions with them, but you get nothing out of them because they're just basically, you know, there's really nothing there. There's somebody who just doesn't have anything to offer to a discussion. So when you have debaters, they're coming prepared. They're coming prepped with logic, reasoning. They're coming with PowerPoints. They're coming with facts, scientific studies, meta-analysis and whatnot. Right? And they're going to use these things to challenge each other. But these are things that they gathered from the internet based on studies of somebody else. So when you go into an MMA fight, you're using certain skill sets like karate, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, or you may use a variety of them. That's why it's called mixed martial arts. Or you can get into something that's just straight boxing. You know what I'm saying? Or straight karate. But when you're in a UFC fight, it's mixed martial arts. So you can use all your skill sets in there. You know what I'm saying? And then you go in there and you fight the opponent. But beforehand, don't forget, there's mental warfare, right? So now, when you look at, for example, character attacks could be done through words. That's why the people say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, which is not true. You know what I'm saying? Because words can actually destroy you quicker than the physical, or you can actually do that and not even have to get to the physical, because the person might even withdraw from whatever it is that they're getting into because they know that they have no chance against you. You get what I'm saying? So when you have debates, for example, keep in mind this goes on a much deeper level, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the fuck. If you're both arguing shit based on scientific fact, you're basically taking studies based on what others have told you. You know what I'm saying? And then we actually demonize anecdotal claims, because anecdotal claims are your experiences, right? Regardless of how it looks like. I don't care. See, the thing is, my experiences are experienced by me, and your experiences can never look the way I experience it. I may see the color red the way you see the color blue, right? So how do you know that your perception of even how you see the world, that's why we got people looking at flat earth and round earth, right? But at the end of the day, you're gathering all this information from the internet, round earth, flat earth, and then we got our perception of how we see things. And what's funny is that based on how we see our perception, the internet will feed you all this information to back up your claim. You get what I'm saying? Some people may see the world very round, and some people may see it very flat. But either they want to see it that way based on belief, and because of their belief, it's kind of like this. If you're going down a ski slope, right? They always tell you, don't look at the trees. Look at the path. Because if you're looking at the trees, you're not going to see the path. You're going to most likely hit a tree because you're looking for the trees. So when you're going down a ski slope, look at the path. The trees will disappear and you'll only see the path, and you'll get to the bottom of the hill safely, right? So it's the same way. When you're so ingrained into the world is flat, you're going to find more flat earth claims to back your claim up. And the same way that people see the world round, they're going to see more claims to back up their claims to see the world round. And they may even see the world more round, right? Because that's just what they want to see. However, understand this, the way I just said that, the way I see the color red, you may see it blue. I may physically, all right, have a fisheye lens of the world while you have it a very flat. It's just no different than if I'm experiencing my world with one set of goggles with a fisheye lens, or I'm doing it with a regular generic lens. You get what I'm saying? So you just never really know how this type of shit works as far as how the individual sees it. But we call these anecdotal claims, and they're not valid because they're not backed up by science. However, when you look at how the medical industry works, for example, when you talk to a doctor, they only look at how your physical condition and how you are physically looking, or your physical symptoms. But they never go to the deep root of what happens to you. So for example, if you got cancer, diabetes, or whatever, it's not just due through diet or genetic weaknesses. It could just be an inflammatory response that you have toward your environment that consents. Because I just told you, your world is you inverted inside out. It could just be you consenting to the fact that you're holding on to such strong inflammatory emotions toward people outside of you that you're creating this disease within you. But it's not a disease, it's a dis-ease. Because you don't catch nothing. You develop these things. You already have all these things within you. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know shit. Do your own research. Okay? None of this stuff I talk about is backed up by medical claims. So why doctors and medical claims and all that exists? Because it's there for you to study it. You know what I'm saying? But what I say doesn't matter. I'm a content creator. That's what I'm doing here. I'm creating a movie for you. You know what I'm saying? Just no different than a director creates a science fiction movie for you. Take that for what it is. You know, but then when you have these inflammatory responses toward things outside of you, in the Bible it tells you, treat your neighbor as you would yourself, is because you are these neighbors. These neighbors are versions and reflections of you, and when somebody triggers you, it's because this is a shadow aspect of yourself that you hid away in the closet to some extent, that you need to take a closer look at and commune with, and actually expose it within yourself. Because the reason it's in a closet, somehow you put it away because you saw that society didn't deem it acceptable. So you looked at what society values more than what you value, right? So now it's hidden in a closet, and when it comes out, it's a shadow aspect of yourself that triggers you, something that you hate about yourself, because you have accepted with the collective consciousness that it's unacceptable. You know? So for example, if I go and I'm debating a person online, right? I notice how these like these people, they are very intellectual. They know the terminologies, no different than when you go to a courtroom. They use words a certain way to maneuver around. That's why you got to hire a lawyer, because you don't know their language. It's a different language that they're speaking. So when you go online and start to go and debate, you have to know their language. You have to know terminology. You have to know how to use these PowerPoints to your advantage to back up your claims. But at the end of the day, think about this though. What the fuck does it matter? Let's say, for example, we found out the earth was round or the earth was flat. How would that change your reality, right? How would it change? Even vegans, carnivores, which listen, I will definitely have a fucking discussion with a vegan. And I'm not against what they do. That's the whole thing. I'm not against what they do. It's just that it's another religion. You get what I'm saying? It's another religion. That's what it is. So the way religion was rooted out, right? And it's something where do you talk? There, you know how many religious people I've had discussions with, and at the end of the day, it comes down to, well, have you ever talked to God? Have you ever seen God? Why do you believe in God? And at the end of the day, it just comes down to a pass me down from the parents, that they have this religion because of what they were taught from their parents and what society has deemed it acceptable to be. You need to be a good individual. But why can't you just be good without having religion or having man-made laws? You ever ask yourself that question? Why don't we trust mankind to just be good? And I'm not talking, because good and bad doesn't exist, but I'm talking about live in harmony, which is a real love, a growing experience. Because even love is looked at wrong with how we look at it based on how they teach you love is from movies. I walk my garden. There's love happening in the garden. Love is a growing experience, right? So you have a growing experience. Not to say that when you tear down shit, it's the opposite, looking like it's bad, because you could tear shit down. Again, you unlearn to learn something new. You tear shit down to build something new. You get out of a toxic relationship, work on yourself, right? To get into a better relationship. So when you're looking at these debates online, this is modern day fighting. That's all it is. And this is why it's called Revenge of the Nerds. You know what I'm saying? Because it's modern day warfare. And think about this though. This is the much easiest way to implant mind viruses. And if you're not aware, right? Let's say, because I've already said what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So if you have, for example, you develop a symptom of a virus, do you notice how when you get better, you actually build defenses toward that virus? It's because you got stronger from it. But if it killed you, it's because your body was weak to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Or you let the belief of this virus, based on shit you heard, that it actually ended up debilitating you and killing you. But your body could defend itself against anything outside of you that you claim to be a virus, if your body's strong enough and your foundation and roots are strong enough to withstand it and overcome it. You get what I'm saying? And I'll make a separate video on that. But again, I'm not a medical doctor. All viruses exist. All right. I'm literally coming out of YouTube jail right now. All right. And, you know, at the end of the day, whoever you listen to online, do your own research. At the end of the day, it don't matter what you're trying to accomplish. Spiritual experiences, more knowledge and wisdom, whatever it may be, more power. Let's say for self-righteous, for your self purposes. I'm going to tell you right now, nothing will work unless you got your mind set and your mind is right toward it. We'll talk soon.